Hello, in this lesson, I want to go over how to compute mean and standard deviations of grouped data using a calculator. Now, this is one of the examples that we did in class. This is example 1 of 3.3. In this example, we compute the mean and standard deviation by hand. So the example states that the National Survey of Student Engagement surveyed that, among other things, asked first-year students at Liberal Arts College to how much time they spend preparing for class each week. The results are summarized below. We want to approximate the mean in this example. So we say we're given that the hours, which is in class, the class limits, we had noticed that the classes, including first class, is 0. And then frequency is second column, and the third column is class midpoint. The fourth column, here we compute the xi times fi, which is the class midpoint times the frequency. And then once we've done that, we find the sum of the frequency column, which give me 1000, and we get a sum of the xi fi column, give me 14,750, and we use that to approximate the mean, which is 14.75. So let's see if we can do that with the standard deviation at the same time using the calculator. Okay, so to do that using a calculator, first is to enter the data into the calculator. Now go to stat and enter. Now notice that in L1 I put the lower class limit like that. No, since the first row is all 0, for the and frequency also 0, so I skip the first row. It just doesn't change the data. So I just start with 1. So 1, and then the lower class limit 1. Notice that this is 1, 6, 11, 16, 21, 26, 31, and that's what I entered it in L1. Same thing in L2. L2 I have 5, 10, 15, 20, 25, 30, 35. That's where I enter L2. Now in L3, I entered it the frequency. Frequency is again, I started with 130 and then 250, 230, 180, 160, and the last one, which is 50. Okay, so once I've done that, I'm gonna find the class midpoint of the data, and I'm gonna do in L4. We'll say class midpoint is equal to lower class limit plus upper class limit, and then divided by 2, and then once you get that, then I add 0.5. So let's do that in one step in your calculator. So I'm going to use a grouping symbol to tell the calculator to do the add first, and then divide, and then subtract. All right, so let's do it. So lower class limit is in L1, so second 1 gives me L1, plus upper class limit, which is in L2, so second 2, close the parenthesis, and then divided by 2. And then once I compute that, then I add 0.5 at the end. And that's L4. Notice that that is my class midpoint, which is given in a third column in my data over here, which is we calculate in class here, xi. All right, once I've done that, I'm just going to use my calculator to do it. So remember that L3 is my frequency, L4 is my class midpoint. So go to stat, go to calculate. Now L3 is my frequency. Remember that my L4 actually is my class midpoint. So this would be second 4 give me L4, and second 3 give me L3. Again, you're basically telling your calculator where your lists are. So L4 is my class midpoint, which is xi. L3 is my frequency, and in my calculator. So once I've done that, I just put enter, enter, and enter. Now note that I found my average be 14.75, and that's exactly what we got in class. So for application question, reminder is important that you answer the question in a complete sentence to interpret the result. Now let's go to the standard deviation one. Now for the standard deviation, we use the same example here. Notice that I have, let me put it over, I recalculate for 8.1. That's what we got last time. And in my calculator, I also have 8.1. That's the sample standard deviation here. Okay, so that's how we calculate mean and standard deviation of a grouped data using a calculator. Thank you for watching the video. I'll see you next time.